I look back, it's all about consistency in a game. And if you're doing well and you're confident, the opportunities are there, innit? And
Yeah, absolutely.
it's just out of the blue, basically. So again, I was invited up. For a week. And I'd look around the grounds. Funny enough, myself, Barry Powell at the time, who was manager, and Donald Kane, the chairman, came up. We all went up, travelled up. I spent 2 nights there. I'd look around the grounds, met the staff, and then the bid went in for me. Then, so again, it was just
Fantastic.
out of the blue. I wasn't prepared or nothing. I had a settled life in Aber. I was working for the post as a postman. I was coaching, funny enough. I was coaching with Matthew Bishop, involved with, it wasn't the academy for Aber at that time. It was like a development centre. And then all of a sudden, within a week or two, I was moving to Barnsley to play professional football.
Wow, what a turnaround.
I know, yeah, it was unbelievable. But it was something I had to, settle into pretty quick, I just thought the first couple of weeks was just trying to get used to the fitness, because the fitness was so much more requested of you, and going back to training every week, every day of the week,
So who was the manager at Barnsley at that point?
It was Mike Bassett.
Okay. Wow.
So
a guy who's managed the crazy gang.
Yeah, it was just phenomenal, because I remember watching him, with Wimbledon years prior to that, and then seeing him then as he's going to be my manager, And
I think had he been in the Premier League the season before with Forest as well?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, he had been. Yeah, so
a huge name.
Yeah, it was. There was some big players there. Mike Sherran was there, formerly Man City. Craig Hignett was there, formerly with Blackburn. And you're training alongside these players then. Unfortunately, I didn't get, I only got one appearance with them, but it was just, just the level of, competitiveness playing at that level, even the reserve games was really competitive. I recall playing against the likes of Robbie Fowler, was playing for Liverpool reserves, coming back from injury. I remember him. He played against us on Oakwell. We were drawing 0-0, doing really well because he's playing against Liverpool reserves. And then he comes on last quarter of an hour and bangs in a hat trick.
Of course he did. It never took him long to get a hat trick, did he? I think he got one in 6 minutes at one point.
I remember watching him playing in the Ian Rush tournament with Liverpool youth, and then watching him playing in that reserve game, and obviously watching him on Match of the Day and watching how good he was, how good he had progressed.
Yeah.
But then, as I was saying, he scores a hat trick against us in the reserves. They win 3 or 4-0. And then I'm watching him on Match of the Day then on a Saturday night, and he's playing for Liverpool first team, and it's just getting those opportunities to be playing against people like that.
Yeah.
And another one was playing against, like Alan Smith was playing for Leeds at the time. He was playing for the reserves. And then, a year later, he's playing for Man U.
Yeah, yeah, and what a player he went on to be as well.
Yeah. Another one, Merson. Merson's playing for Aston Villa reserves. And this is at the end of his career. And then he's playing for the reserves. And, the boys just couldn't get near him in a reserve game. It was just phenomenal.
Yeah, just class.
Yeah. So, I played a lot of reserve games, but back then you had a lot of really good players playing in the reserve league because we were playing in the FA Premier Reserve League. So players, So great memories.
What was that changing room like then, Andy? Did you get some good nights out with those boys at Barnsley?
Yeah, the reserves and the first team trained together every week, and then probably on a Friday then or a Thursday we'd have like a practice match.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be reserves against first team. And I always recall I was probably featuring a lot of the reserve games, play reserve teams that we play, and playing against the likes of Craig Hignett was playing again, and he just couldn't get the ball off in a practice match. He was just phenomenal in training, and everybody would be together. You didn't feel as if you were left out at all. We had a few good nights out, as a club. But even then, I recall when this was a difference when I was at Cardiff and I was at Barnsley. When I went to Barnsley, they started bringing in this dietitian side of it, what you were eating, really looking after yourself, which was different when I was at Cardiff when I was in the early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
So you could already see the change in everybody's attitudes.
Yeah, and in a relatively short period of time as well.
Yeah, it was. And, I think it was for the benefit of the players, to be honest. It improved me as a player because you had to really look after yourself, in order to perform at a high level. Yeah. And it just helped me later on in my career, because when I went to Barnsley, I was 23. When I left them, I was 25. And then I went back to non-league football, but it changed me in the way I thought about how I looked after myself.
Yeah, so that side of things you feel really helped improve your game.
Oh yeah, definitely. And when I come back to play for Aber, it started coming into that game as well, into the League of Wales.
Mm-hmm.
And the performances changed massively, and people's, approach to the game, changed massively over that duration.
Yeah, absolutely. So after Barnsley, you moved on for a number of spells at clubs in the north of England. So you had a couple of spells at Frickley, Ossett, Belper. You mentioned Ilkeston as well. So just tell us a bit about that sort of time in your life. I take it you were living up in Yorkshire as well. So take us through those years ahead of your return to Aber in 2006.
Yeah, so I spent 2 years out of 3 with Barnsley. Again, I was in and out. I was playing for the reserve team mainly, but we went. Mike Bassett left, went to another club, and then we had Nigel Spackman come into the club then, and obviously new manager, new ideas. Obviously personnel's got to change, so I went on a couple of loan spells in between leaving Barnsley. So in a Mansfield, I went to Chester, which I really enjoyed the experience. But then Barnsley were going to release me, so I thought, right, I need to be playing for a club. So lucky enough, Frickley was down the road, which is about 8 miles away. They come in, showed some interest. I started the season with Stalybridge Celtic, who had just been promoted to the conference. So I started the first month with Stalybridge Celtic, but couldn't get a regular game. So then Frickley, which was on my doorstep, which I was living in Barnsley, come offering then, so I thought, I hadn't played that level of football. That was one league below the conference. I thought, chance for me to shine again and show what I'm, capable of, and maybe put myself back in the shop window. So I went to Frickley. I think it was 2-3 seasons with them. Really enjoyed the football. There wasn't a vast amount of money in the club. I thought they were really honest, because they said from the outset, look, we haven't got a lot of money, but what we will do, we'll give you an opportunity to play at a decent level. We got a lot of youngsters as well as experienced players, youngsters wanting to prove themselves. First season really struggled, we were hovering into relegation zones, but we survived. And then the season after then, we just sort of really had a really good start of the season, and we ended up finishing in the playoff places. And unfortunately, we lost in the semi-final of the playoffs. And
so what level was that then, Andy?
That was the North. That's the Northern Counties League, which was the old Unibond League,
yeah.
which was the feeder league to the conference. So really good level of football. Yeah. But we just achieved way past what our capabilities were, because we played against teams like North Ferriby. Who else was playing? Guiseley. There was Marine Town. Really big clubs who had a lot of money backing them. So we were punching above our weight basically, but we had a good nucleus of lads. And this is where having a good team spirit, on and off the field, does make a big difference. And I just really enjoyed myself at Frickley, and just thought it was a good experience in helping me and develop as a player again. Later on, then the manager that was with me at Frickley, he moved to Belper. So
Okay.
what you find a lot of, managers move and they like to take their players with them, which is a fact now to this day, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what caused me to move, was the manager moved, and then I moved with the manager when he took up a new position at Belper. So I went down. There was Derbyshire I played there, which was in the same league, same level, and really competitive football. Spent half a season with them, enjoyed my football, but then I think the manager left, and again, new manager, new ideas, which maybe causes people to leave. And then went to Ilkeston then, and this is where I crossed paths again with my former forward colleague, which was Phil Stant. He was the manager at Ilkeston Town. So, going through the football circles, I crossed paths and met up with him again then, but he was a manager and I was a player.
How was that dynamic?
It worked well, I seen the other side to him, because as a strike partner, you're working off each other, but then he was my boss, but I had a good relationship with him. He played me up front. He used me as a lone striker and sort of used me as a target man. And then I had really quick wingers. They were playing off me. And we were playing a lot of our football down south of England. So, and this is what I liked about being involved in football, is the amount of areas you travel to and experience, places you would go to that you wouldn't go unless you played football.
Yeah.
You travel the length and breadth of the country, and this is what is so rewarding. You meet so many people along the way, and along your path with football and with sport in general, and you meet so many people and interesting people.
Yeah. So were there many famous or well-known names in those teams that you played for? Belper, Frickley, Ilkeston, that you mentioned there, guys who have dropped down from the Football League, perhaps?
Memory's not very good, but yeah, loads of time. I remember playing Burton Albion. Nigel Clough was there. He was the manager. I think he was player manager at the time. And Burton Albion were a massive club even then. That
was just at the start of their journey to eventually get into the championship.
It was, they were like the Man United of that level. And we played against them, and I think it was, who else we were playing down that area? Nuneaton Borough were another good team. And the good opportunities we had playing those lower leagues in the English pyramid system was the preliminary of the FA Cup, and that you play against big teams in the preliminary rounds, and the other big one, which was like equivalent to the Welsh Cup in the League of Wales, was the FA Trophy. That was a big cup, to try and progress in. I remember we played Norfolk Victoria one season, and I think they went on to like the semi-finals. Really established clubs. And a lot of them had influx of a lot of ex-pros and players that hadn't made the cut, and they dropped down into the lower leagues. But you're saying about certain players. We played against so many players, well-established names. The list is endless. Just sort of forget exactly how many you did play against.
Yeah, too many to mention.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, but as I said, getting the opportunities to play against decent players.
Yeah, it sounds like some journey that you went on throughout those few years up in Yorkshire. But in 2006, you took the decision to return to Aberystwyth as a town and to the football club as well. So, what was behind the decision to move from Yorkshire back to Aber, and how did you find things when you did return?
Moving back to Aberystwyth was probably, it wasn't a big, a big difference change for me, because obviously I'm an Aber boy. I think probably what swung it was probably family was based here. My parents are both from here. And then also was, I had a young family back then as well. So, both sets of family were based in Aberystwyth. So moving back to Aberystwyth was probably a good move at the time. I was flitting between different clubs up there. Probably wasn't settled with my work as well, because I was working on the construction industry at that time. And it just seemed like a good move while the family was young as well, to move back to Aberystwyth. Obviously, we knew the area, and it was a nice area to bring a young family up in. And it was also the opportunity to play football as well at a decent level, being in the Welsh Prem as well. So everything just seemed right to move back. So, and also Aber had a strong team back then as well. Big influx of local players, as well as the odd player coming from down south or up north. So it just seemed a win-win scenario.
So who was? I always ask this question. Who was in that Aber team when you came back then?
Martin Griffiths, Gary Lou, Freddie was there. Paddy was there. Can't remember exactly who was there, but just recall it was a very good team. That good, in fact, that had a really good season. And then I think it was the year later that we got to the Welsh Cup final.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I was going to come on to this, but you mentioned losing the semi-final to Cwmbran Town, and in the run-up to that Welsh Cup final, I don't know if you remember, but we actually lost 3 semi-finals in the League Cup back to back in those consecutive seasons leading up to the Welsh Cup final. And probably one of my best memories of watching Aberystwyth Town was a goal that you scored at the Diaz stand I think it was the semi-final in 2008, 2009. Last minute goal to give us the lead against Bangor, and you scored the goal and you actually ended up in the Diaz. Do you remember that goal?
I probably did. I probably got dragged in there. But I just love those days, because there was a lot of youngsters coming up through school years, and it was just like a little posse of people in the Diaz stand. There was a drum and everything, but the atmosphere was brilliant, and used to come to away games as well. And it was just great, because us as players, it used to just give us a lift. But I probably vaguely remember scoring that. But it was just a good hoil around the club at that time. On and off the pitch. You're saying about the bus trips and that. It was just brilliant. But it wasn't just the players that brought it on. It was the supporters that used to come with us as well. Because it works both ways. Because if you want to be successful, it comes with the support as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've just touched on it there, and it's one thing that has come up in almost every interview that I've done so far: the Aberystwyth Town bus journey. So tell us your best memories of the bus journeys with Aber.
Oh, there's so many to name, but funny thing was, I remember we used to go to a place like Bangor and that. They were long days, but this is what from a coach's perspective now is like, I know where we're located. We've got to do a lot of traveling as a club, but me as a player, I used to love the away trips, because it was like a day out, but it was a trip going up. Everybody was focused, and you'd have a few characters in the back of the bus, like the Freddies, the Gary, what's it name, Gav Allens, and we were all playing together. Paddy was like quiet; he'd probably be sleeping on the way up because he's charging his batteries up, ready for the game. But then you knew why after the game, because on the way back, not just me but him, he was the music man on the way back. Because I know we'd be like devastated if we lost, but win, lose or draw, we would be like down in the dumps for about an hour after the game. But when we get back on the bus, then we'd all start singing and everybody would join in. And it was just a good hoil around the club, supporters as well on board. And I just think that is so important. If you want to be successful, it's about the dressing room and it's about before and after the game. I think that's why we were so successful as a group over those 2 or 3 seasons, because we all stuck together. Yes, there was some bickering and all that, but above all, everybody stuck together and we all looked after each other and looked out for each other. And, a lot of the lads I've mentioned about the bus trips, but, I recall and like even pre-season, like I think Sean James, we were just sort of like going with it. We stopped in Ryder because it was a carnival, and we ended up not coming back till 12 o'clock because we didn't want to leave the carnival. And I think Sean touched on it. He said a few people were in the doghouse, I think, the next that night. But it wasn't because of their doing; it was because we couldn't get people on the bus, and also
there was a carnival in Ryder
without us.
And because there was a carnival in Ryder.
I recall once, I think we were playing down South Wales somewhere, and we stopped on the way back. And I'll never forget, we used to have a piss stop on the way back because everybody needed a toilet and probably nowhere was open. I'll never forget, we stopped in a lay-by. I think it was the other side of Aberystwyth, between Aberystwyth and Aber. Sherbs and all, they were all lining up. I think Sherbs I think he had a big tank, so he had you needed a bit more time to get rid of it all. And we ended up leaving him behind, and he's running after us with his trousers around his bottoms around his ankles, trying to chase the minibus.
Brilliant. He never told us that one on his interview. He kept that one quiet.
No, he wouldn't have said that. So he's running with his tracky bottoms around his ankles, trying to catch the bus. Obviously, we stopped for him about 10, 50 yards up the road. But, it's just stuff like this, But, yourself, you were on the bus a lot of the time, but it was always about the sing-song on the bus on the way back. Yeah. And Paddy always used to be the music man. I used to come in with a few songs.
Yeah, but, I can remember you joining in a few times, yeah.
No, but, great times.
So can you remember the songs that you were singing at the back of the bus?
Paddy used to sing a few like Welsh songs. I used to sing what was it? Paddy used to have one, what was it? Was it Tiki Tonga or something he used to sing? And he used to start off really quiet, and then by the end he'd be red in the face and lost his voice. And then he wouldn't see him the rest of the night because he'd lost his voice.
You go for another kip?
Yeah, but it was brilliant, the banter on the bus. But, the thing was, though, we used to do it on the pitch as well, and yes, we used to be out of form some games, but we would always, always be committed in near off every game. One game that really sticks with me, I know losing cup finals or losing in the semi-finals is hard to take, but one game that really sticks with me is, and you'll probably remember it, was the League Cup. We had a group match and we had to win by 6 goals.
Yeah, and I remember it well.
Your dad was in charge. we were 2-0 up at half time, and we had to win 6-0, and it was 15 minutes left, and we were 3-0 up. I was on the bench. Stu Fraser was on the bench. We come off the bench, and we were warming up, and we're saying, like, we're never going to do this. We got 15 minutes left, and we're 3-0, and we need to get another 3 goals. And I don't know, to this day, I don't know how the hell we done it, but we come off the bench. He scored one, Stu Fraser did. I scored one, and then, what's his name?
Stuart Roberts.
Stuart Roberts scores the sixth goal, and this was just to get through the group to play Kaneki in the semi-final.
Yeah.
And we were at a massive pylon at home on the pitch, and it was as if we won the FA Cup or the Welsh Cup.
Yeah, it was some night, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I just, I've played for a lot of clubs over the years and been involved in a lot of like cup finals or semi-finals. But I think this was a massive game because you never hear of it, score 6 goals. And like how we did it, I don't know. And this is what I'm saying is about togetherness and team spirit, because we all stuck to, and we all done it. And, it was just like winning a cup, to be honest. The unfortunate thing was, I think, we ran out as we played Kaneki, and I think we lost them away in this. And I think recall back window got knocked through.
Sorry, mate, the connection's just dropped there.
Down. All right. I just said then we got to the semi-finals, and I think we lost to Kaneki in the semi-final.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Away.
Yeah, it was a close game, wasn't it? Was it 1-0?
To make matters worse, we were stranded. What made it worse was we were on the team coach, and the back window got knocked through, so we had to wait for an hour and a half for the bus to come for us. So.
And you just stuck at Stevenheath?
It was a bad day at the office. Yeah, Stevenheath, yeah. So, no, really fond memories of my Abertown. It was really good. Great nucleus of players, and, a really good balance of local players and also a couple of lads who were travelling up, Mm-hmm. And, I thought it was, very productive time for Abertown. I know that since we've done well, but the potential's there.
Well, we'll come on to talk about the Welsh Cup final of 2009 in a minute, but there's just one thing that I want to touch on before that, and you talk about the team spirit that was in the club at that time, and the togetherness of the players, and also the banter. And one of the things that has come up time and time again when I've done these interviews has been performances in training. So yeah, I'm afraid to say you've been nominated a few times as the worst trainer at the club. So first of all, do you agree with that statement? And now is also your chance to get your own back on the players who have nominated you as well.
I know I was never a good trainer, but I always knew that I used to give like 100%. I never shirked out of training. I'd always turn up to every training, regardless how good I performed. But I think I was stitched up a few times because what it was session, we would always finish off with a circle. So the circle was, if you were in the middle, you were chasing the ball, innit? And more times than not, it used to be me, but the punishment was you had to wear the yellow jersey for the week after. So I think it was Venables that instigated this little session. And the thing is, though, yeah, Stu Roberts was in it a couple of times, Sean James a few times, even Sherbs even mentioned he was in a few times. But it was just part of the banter, and the funny thing was, we all had to vote, and you could see everybody was like whispering, like, "Oh yeah," and what it was stitching people up. So you go around the circle, and then everybody nominate their vote, and more times than not, who was it? Muggins, me. I'd be voted. You could see that it was just about the banter and all that. But as you say, that is part of, I think that was part of this nucleus of banter, bouncing off each other. And, it's all light-hearted, basically. But, yeah, fair enough. I've had stick over the last couple of weeks. Even had stick off some of the girls in the ladies team. And there's me ranting and raving about turning up to train and being punctual, and also being, performances. And then I'm getting voted all the time off the guys, isn't it?
Well, you'll certainly have your chance later on in the quickfires to nominate someone else.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
let's carry on talking about that sort of that era at the club, because we've mentioned it a couple of times already, and there was the famous cup run in 2009, which ended with the Welsh Cup final against Bangor City on the bank holiday Monday. What are your memories of that cup run, and in particular the semi-final down at Haverfordwest?
Looking back, that day, I was a substitute that day, but overall, no one wants to be on the bench. And the thing is, though, on that day, we just everything clicked that day. The team, there's footage of the game, and the team just clicked that day. That's where a good, strong squad is so important. If you want to succeed as a team, you've got to have strength on the bench. You've got a strength in the starting 11. And I just think everything clicked that day. And I think Freddie scored the winning goal. Jeff got the first one. But, we just performed on the day. And, the celebrations after were immense, innit? But we still had one hurdle to get over, and that was the final. We had a good cup run, but, people might say, was that our final? I don't know. Because I thought when we played Bangor down there, I think the only difference that day was that they were a bit more streetwise. Also, they had the experience of being in the final, and I think we might have maybe suffered a bit of stage fright. And, personnel probably hadn't had that experience of being in a final previously, because we had a couple of younger players in the team. I think Sean, someone touched on, he had a great speech before the game to try and gee the players up, because, I've learned that from a manager's point of view, being coach in that sense. And, you need to know your players as well, what makes them tick and what you need to do to get the best from them. And we were just unfortunate that day. I think we played Bangor maybe on an off day for ourselves, and, they, were on a good day, and that's what cup finals are about, isn't it? It's all on the day. The preparation couldn't be any better. We had a pre-match, everything was chill, so no one was sort of like, on edge and all that. We got down there nice and early. The environment was brilliant. Lovely grounds. Was it
Parker Scarlets?
Yeah, Parker Scarlets.
It
great
was brand new
venue
at the time as well, wasn't it? It had just been opened about 6 months earlier.
Yeah, and me personally, I felt quite calm, and I think I felt calm because I had been in that experience before with, Aber previously, also when I was playing for the Frickleys and all that, and also being a pro as well, because you encounter that certain times in your career. I was just, we were just devastated coming back, because when you're playing a final, you're thinking about the positives, what happens if we win, but then to come back so dejected. But, show character as well. We were gutted, but also we still sort of celebrated on the way home. I think we had a stop on the way home. And I think the supporters were good that day, because I think they lifted the players as well, because they were singing. Some of us are joining in as well. And I think that's why supporters are so important at a club as well. You know, Aber's had such a good following over the years, and it stands the club in good position in future, because you know we've had diehard fans over the years, and I just thought the supporters were brilliant that day, because they lifted the lads, because we were all dejected from the loss. And it was just disappointing to get so far and then lose in the final, because I think on the day, I think majority of the players thought that we didn't perform on the day. You know, we were average. The first goal was important, but then they think they scored 2 goals quite quickly,
There was
one after the other.
Was it one just before half time, and then the second one was just after half time?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, you know, 2 defining times in the game, innit? And I think the second goal just knocked the stuffing out of us. You know, Bradshaw was playing that day. You know, he went on to great things, but then you know, that's what I'm saying, that the strength in the squad was there, because we had a good bench to come off the bench and hopefully change the game. But at 2-0, it's very difficult to get back, and to score, as you say, at both ends of the half, innit? But you know, good experiences again. You know, obviously Aber have played in finals since then and had near misses. But I think Sean related to it the other week. You know, Aber's going to have the opportunity a lot of times, hopefully in the future, and hopefully learn previous experiences. You know.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to happen one day, isn't it? One of these days, the stars are going to align. Everything's going to go for us on the day, which it hasn't on, I think, a couple of the occasions in the finals. And you just hope that that one day we can say Aberystwyth Town Welsh Cup winners.
Yeah, definitely. You know, the potential's there, especially now. You know, moving on. It'd be great to see Aber on the in the Hall of Fame as winning another Welsh Cup, innit?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great to see.
So after the Welsh Cup in 2009, you had another season with Aber, but then you moved on from Aber for the from the playing side anyway, for the final time in 2010. Had a couple of spells with other clubs before you move into coaching. So can you just talk us through that period, leaving the club? What were the reasons behind leaving the club at that time, and your career, your final playing days, moving on into your coaching career?
Yeah, another season after that, but I think everybody encounters this when you come to the end of your career. You know, especially I think I was 34, I think possibly at that time, and I just could see all this youth boys coming through, and like Jeff Kellaway was breaking into the being a regular in that team, and you know, a lot of the older players will be in the same thinking as I was back then. You know, seeing all this nucleus of new players coming in, and you've got to work harder. You know, I was having a lot of times on the bench, and I just thought my career as such was starting to stagnate, and I probably needed a new challenge, and maybe a move with maybe another club would be an opportunity to, you know, to extend my career as such, because, you know, I looked on it, you know, I could have been sitting on the bench for 2 seasons, guesting about 10, 15 minutes every so often. You know, and I didn't want to do that. I wanted to maybe play at a lesser club, probably, you know, a team that maybe would start me, and maybe give me a bit of an opportunity to kickstart my career again for another couple of years. So, you know, the opportunity came to me then. I think Tommy Morgan was up at Porthmadog. Mark Gornall was there at the same time. He was a local lad who was doing pretty well. Mike Foster was there. He was a previous Aber player. So, you know, the opportunities are there, and also the scenario that I was going to link up with a few players that I knew about. So, you know, I decided to go to Porthmadog, which I felt was, you know, a great new release for me to kickstart my career again. So I went up there, and I finished the season with Porthmadog. Unfortunately, I picked up a couple of injuries, and I, you know, I had a lack of game time, and then the season finished. So then I pondered over what my positions were or what my opportunities were the season after. And during the summer, then Tommy moved down to Carmarthen, so he gave me the opportunity then to move to Carmarthen, which I followed on to do. But unfortunately, I knew Carmarthen was a local rival for Aber, but also, it wasn't too far away for me to travel. Again,
A
I
really
knew,
good club as well. A proper established Welsh Premier club as
yeah, they
well.
were, the structure was there. Obviously, I knew the manager, but also there was a couple of players that I did feature with when I was playing at Newport. So I was teaming up with a few of the players down there as well. But, optimistically, you think, right, what you want to do and what you want to achieve that season. But unfortunately, halfway through the season, I sustained an injury on my eye, which later on decided, it prevented me playing football anymore. I just could not play football with the injury I sustained. So that finished my career a bit earlier than I would have hoped of. I guested a few times afterwards. I played for local teams like Paddon, Penpark, that I'm involved with, but it was never the same, and I didn't want to, I wanted to play as high level as I could, and, things happen in football that you don't want, you want to try and be in control of it, but it's out of your control.
Yeah.
So,
and are you fully
unfortunately,
recovered from that injury now, Andy?
yeah, to an extent, but it prevents me actually playing football to the level I'd like to. I did play for a couple of games with goggles, but it's just not the same. People just like take the mickey, because they're like sort of Edgar David goggles, but
yeah.
I just couldn't play them because they just missed it up, or I had to wipe them, and I just tried contact lenses, but they just didn't work for me. So, and this is what goes on to what you're going to talk about, is this is where it gives you another avenue and getting involved in the coaching aspect of the game, which keeps you involved in the game. I just think it's so important if you want to, extend your career involved in football, is doing it that way, being involved at youth level or senior level.
Yeah, definitely. So talk to us about your first steps in coaching then, and your journey through coaching since.
Well, funny enough, I've mentioned it a few times. Well, I mentioned it to my younger daughter now. Funny enough, I've been involved in coaching since I was 21.
Why?
And I found that it's been so rewarding, but also helpful, because you look at the game totally different when you're coaching. I'd done my leaders, and funny enough, I'd done my leaders badge when I was 21, and it was Mary and Appleton that done the course. He'd done the leaders badge, and it was up in my school, Pengwest Comprehensive, and it was 2 Sundays. So Mary and Appleton was doing the course, and I think it was Matthew Bishop that sort of got me involved, because he said, do your leaders badge, because it gives you an avenue to get involved in the coaching side of it. So it was me, Richard Morgan, Honky, and Peter Griffiths. The 3 of us went up there, done our leaders badge, and then we passed it over the 2 weeks, and then we went on and we done our C license up in Wrexham on the academy grounds, I think it is. So the 3 of us had our badges in our early 20s. And then we were involved with doing coaching in the community, the 3 of us. So Matthew Bishop was overseeing the whole lot, and then we were sort of like his coaches underneath him. And I just found it so rewarding going around the schools. Went to Tregaron, went to Bow Street, went to Canilla, went around all the junior schools, doing like fun football, before the academy and all that got set up, which is the scenario now. So, over the years, obviously when I was doing professional football, I didn't have enough time, to to be involved in football. So it's sort of like curtailed for a bit. And then I kick-started it up again when I moved back to Aber in 2006. So I've been involved with Abertown 14. This is my 15th year involved in academy. I worked with the 12s, the 14s, the 16s, and then now I'm involved with the ladies, but I've never been involved at the 19s level. That's the only age group I haven't taken.
Okay.
So, I found it rewarding. I've worked with a lot of people. I worked with Bradshaw some point before he went on.
And another player who went on to play, another player from Aberystwyth who went on to play for Barnsley as well.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, same club. Yeah, but I worked with him for one game when he was with the 16s, and then funny enough, he played alongside me with the senior team. Then when we were in the Welsh Welsh Cup final.
Fantastic.
But that's what I'm saying. Just gives you good opportunities when you're doing the coaching as well. Norrington Davis, funny enough, he was the first team I taught when I come back from moving back to Barnsley. He was the first team, and he was the under-12s. He later
now he's
on
a full
went
international.
to, I think it was, amazing. So, utmost respect for these guys making it at the top level, because, they started at grassroots level, and, they had the potential back there, but they've just kicked on. And, I wish them all the best in the future. But, I've seen a lot of players come and go over the years, but it's the grassroots level I see the most rewarding, because, they just turn up, they just love playing football, and they just love being involved, in the game.
And what a reward it will be in the summer when you watch Rhys Norrington Davis play for Wales in the Euros as well. What a moment that will be.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, for the community, but also for his family and also for himself, innit?
Yeah, absolutely. So, just moving on to what you're doing at the moment in terms of coaching, and then Andy, you've mentioned you're with the ladies team. How's that going, and how's that gone over the last year or so while we've had the pandemic? And also tell us about your role with Pen Parky as well, please.
Right. So second season now, I've been involved with Aber Ladies, working with Ray Hughes, who's the former manager. He's been the manager there he's been involved with the women's section for, I think, about 15 years, I think. So I decided to come on board then, and then we've took Carwyn Jenkins on board now recently. He's a new face to the setup. But I've just found it really rewarding working with the women. Also, sort of like involved with the girls section as well, because we're trying to set up a girls' academy, which is going to take some time. But I just found it rewarding, but also it's challenging, because I compare obviously being involved with the men's team for so many years when I was playing, and comparing the women to the men. They travel as much as the men. A lot of the teams are all down south, but it's just a commitment. They got the same commitment, but what I'm amazed about is the commitment they've got, because they've got to give up the weekends because we play Sunday football. Right. So they've got to sacrifice their Saturdays as well as their Sundays. They've got to travel the same distances as the men's do. But then, the only reward they get is the win at the end of the day. The money factor isn't involved with them, because obviously they don't get paid. Mm-hmm. So, I just find it really challenging for themselves. And it's just the motivational side of it is us as coaches trying to keep them motivated, because the challenge for them is because they're up against it every week, because they're playing against the Cardiff Cities, the Swansea Cities, the Cardiff Mets, who are well-established teams who are fighting to get into Europe, and we're up against it every week. But the opportunities that they've got are brilliant, but the passion and also the commitment from them is second to none. Just for them now to train twice a week this year is a massive plus for them. And 98% of them are turning up week in, week out to train, which shows their commitment.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I find it really rewarding at the moment, but it's challenging in different ways. And also you got to apply yourself differently to what you do with the men. So I got to bite my tongue a few times that I don't swear. But no, above all, I just find it really rewarding, really, and also, a big thumbs up to the ladies at the moment for what they're doing and what they're trying to achieve.
I was going to say you've got quite a full weekend then, if you're doing the men's team on the Saturday and then the ladies team on the Sunday.
Yeah, well, as you say now, I'm also involved with Pen Park. Okay, now feel for them at the moment because we sort of started a pre-season training. I've been involved with Penparky for 3 years now. In comparison to the Penrhyn and Abertown, Penparky are probably the next big team in the area. Over the years, it's been proven. They've got an influx of good players coming through from junior level. A lot of players from Penparky have featured in Abertown over the years. The potential's there. We have a lot of players that probably haven't made the cut with Abertown, and then looking at the next level down, which would be Penrhyn. So I've got a lot of players who have featured with Aber and also featured with Penrhyn, and then coming down to the next level. So, I just feel for them guys at the moment because we started a pre-season. We had 6 weeks of hard training. Tommy Morgan, we got Tommy Morgan on board, who's an ex-Abertown manager, ex-player, and he just sort of freshened it up, different aspects on the game, different ideas to what I've got. Mark Gornall's on board with me now as an ex-Abertown player. He still wants to play in the game, but also wants a bit more of a coaching role as well. So at the moment we're all bouncing off each other. The only thing we haven't got is the game time. We've had a month off now because we don't know when we're actually going to go back and play. So I feel for those lads at the moment because obviously their fitness is gone because they got to keep themselves motivated. So as you say now, tomorrow we got our first pre-season as such game tomorrow against Tregaron.
Brilliant.
So they're in at the deep end basically. Yeah. It just shows this time of the moment with this virus that it just puts things into perspective and also makes you think how you take things for granted when it was normal, where you had facilities, you were training once or twice a week, and now we've got nothing. So hopefully,
and also that 9 or 10 month block of solid football fixtures as well. I mean, you can't take anything for granted moving forward. Touch wood, nothing bad happens and we don't get put back into another lockdown moving forward. But usually this time of year, you're halfway through your season and that, aren't you? And it's just, as you say, everything's up in the air now.
Yeah. I think mentally, well, hopefully players will come back now. And, because we've had what we've had, I think they'll realise what they were taking for granted before with, and probably be a bit more focused and, just be a bit more positive about actually just getting opportunities to play football and play competitive games and, not just take it for granted as such. Well, I hope so. The women have definitely have, because, they've had the opportunity to train twice a week, over the last couple of months. And, it is benefiting them. But as I said, the lower leagues, below Abertown, the Penrhyns, the Penparkis, the Canillas, Tregarons, Talabonts, Paddens, they've been without football since March. It's a long time. So hopefully players won't lose interest, and, stick at it, when we do actually get back to. Hopefully there'll be feeder players for, the likes of Penrhyns and the Abbas in the future,
Yeah, absolutely. So, Andy, we're just going to run through some quick fire questions now that we've sent across to you. So, first one, the best player that you've played with at Aberystwyth Town.
Oof, it's a tough one, this one. It could be about 4 or 5, this kid. 2 spells I had. So I would say
We can give you one for each spell if you want.
I think Yama, Jonathan Williams, the first spell.
Yeah, good choice.
Phenomenal player. You know, like pace, awareness, and that. Second spell. Well, being a striker, I think it'd probably be either Ryan Nichols or Gav Allen. Team one of them two. Shade it, I think. It'd have to be one of them two, I think, but probably a par then on them two.
Okay, brilliant. And would you be able to?
Mind you, I set them both up. I used to set them both up, innit? So in this day and age, you get a lot of reward for what's it called, assists.
Yeah, definitely. So you couldn't pick a top one out of your top 3 there.
Out of the 3, I think Yama, to be honest, out of overall Yama.
Yeah.
Jonathan Williams.
Yeah, he was a brilliant player, wasn't he? I remember watching him play for Newtown in the UEFA Cup in '98.
Well, obviously, yeah. Well, your dad worked with him, both clubs, I think, didn't he? All that.
He didn't have him at Aber, no. It was just Newtown,
go higher.
Yeah, he was some player, Yama.
Yeah, he had the potential to go higher.
So from the best player you've played with at Aber, we'll come on to the worst trainer. And it's your chance to get your own back now.
Everybody besides me. On trainer, I don't know. Stu Roberts used to have a bad training session now and again. The Roberts brothers. Yeah. Phenomenal in a match, but I don't know. He was up there with the yellow jersey with me. Sherbs as well. He wasn't the best of trainers, but what he used to be clever. He used to get away from training early for some reason. As Sean James would say, he always had an excuse.
Was it a few injuries? Was it?
Yeah.
No tight hamstring.
Hamstring or groin or something.
So, question number 3: what's your best Aber memory?
Best Aber memory, I think it's got to be the double header against Floriana when we played in the first ever time we got to Europe in the Tota Cup. That home and away legs, just the trip away was just phenomenal because, again, we just unfortunately we lost the game. I think it was 2-1. Narrowly went out, but it was just the fans, the fan base we took over, and they just made a holiday of it, and it was just brilliant because, again, as I said, we just were so down after losing and going out the club, but the fans just give the players a lift again, just by being there and I know we lose, but it's not just about losing, it's just about playing as well, innit? And just enjoying, savouring the moment, innit? Also memories as well as on the bus as well.
Have you got a favourite bus journey memory?
Best bus journey memory was probably coming back from Bangor City winning and Martin Griff buying Thomas White a bottle of Frosty Jacks, which he had to drink by the time he got back to Mach. And him ending up in the top of town, paralytic and staying in the Pier Hotel, I think. And but
did he manage to finish the bottle?
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
brilliant.
But I think we had the backlash because we were responsible for the state he was in. But yeah, good memories of the bus trips. But there were so many of them to mention. Probably get a few people into into hot water if I
It's a bit of
mentioned
trouble.
anymore. So we'll leave it at that.
So from your best Aber memory, what's your worst memory throughout your time at Aber?
Losing that cup final, I think it was, because we had such a good cup run, and it was just like the action when we lost that final in Bangor City, because we knew we were capable of beating them. It's just that solely down to the ball. So we knew, the thing was, though, they were a good team as well, because I think they won it back to back, hadn't they?
Yeah, I think they
And
won
also
3
they had a
times
good
in a
team.
row. Yeah.
So yeah, it's just that disappointment. Just a disappointment. It was weird because I was a lot older, so to experience it the first time, losing in the semi-final against another good team, but to lose in the finals is even worse, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, to be so close to the Europa League place as well.
Yeah, Sean James touched on that. We missed out as well on a European place as well around the same time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, many memories, but hopefully as a club, we'll learn from it, and take it on board, and hopefully, that's what it's about.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll happen one day, without a doubt. So, question number 5: sum up your time with Aber in 3 words.
Passion for the game, supporters, so the support we used to have, and the potential. I think Aber's always been cast a bit like what Cardiff City were, sleeping giants. The potential's there. It's just about getting over that last hurdle and getting up into where the Barry Towns are, the TNSs and the Connors Keys and those sort of teams, innit?
Yeah.
And that's the way I look at it, from a player and from a coach's perspective through my career.
And finally, can you give us your all-time Aber five-a-side team from the players that you played with?
This is another tough one. Goalkeepers was tough. And I've narrowed it down. I've picked John Davis, Cookie, who I was fortunate to play with at the end of his career wasn't with Abertown, but was with another club. So, I'm watching him from a youngster as well. So John Davis would be my goalkeeper. Christian Edwards, who I played against and played with various times in my career. Just his awareness of the game and just his, just his experience. Yammer then, Jonathan Williams as the third one. In the heart of midfield, up and down. He's got that engine and that fitness. Chris Venables then, which speaks volumes for what he's done since. Yeah. I was fortunate to work with him at junior level as a coach when he was with the Central Development, and then playing alongside him when he used to pick me probably all the time as the worst trainer. I think he was the main instigator.
Was he? So you're blaming Venners for all your nominations over the last few weeks?
Well, the thing was, he always used to try and meg me all the time. So I think that's what won it. I think was because he used to meg me. But he's got a great knowledge of the game and just really good. Just good experience in it. But and then Stuart Roberts then, who spent I think a season and a half with the club. I think he played for Wycombe Wanderers as well. So he's got that football league knowledge in it. And then if we were allowed subs, would be Freddie and Jeff Kellaway. So 2 great subs.
That's a strong bench, that one, isn't it?
Yeah. I've upset a few people, but it's just so many players I could have picked from. And it just shows that how many good players have been at the club over the years, all the way through, even before my time.
Yeah, definitely. We've always really been blessed at Aber with a strong group of players, and most of the time it's been a strong group of local players as well as as is evidenced at the moment by what Gav's doing at the moment. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, no, the potential's there, which is great. So I hope I've answered all your questions.
Yeah,
Carefully
absolutely.
and thoroughly.
Yeah, well, Andy, it's been absolutely brilliant. You know, I've really enjoyed all the interviews that I've done so far, and this is just another one to add to the collection. So thanks very much for giving up your time this evening to come and have a chat with us.